Special counsel John Durham has finally released the full report exonerating Trump from any wrongdoing and exposing the double standard of our justice system. I'm Stephanie Keith.
And I am Tara Manjekovic. And we are unapologetically outspoken.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to Freedom Friday. So after 6 years of the whole Trump-Russian collusion that we've been hearing about nonstop that started during the 2016 election, Special counsel John Durham has finally released the full report exonerating Trump from any wrongdoing and exposing the double standard of our justice system. So for anyone listening that's like, what the hell is the Durham investigation and the Russian collusion and all that kind of stuff? During the 2016 election between Trump and Hillary Clinton, there were all of these things going around that Trump was like in bed with Russia and they were going to rig the election in Trump's favor. And then there were like crazy stories that came along with it. Like, for example, Trump peeing on hookers in a hotel room and like just totally like, I think that's what made a lot of people think this guy is like absolutely a terrible, disgusting person. So anyhow, yes. Yeah.
That pissed off a lot of women.
Yep, it sure did. Even though I'm sure a lot of those women have made some pretty nasty comments themselves. So anyhow, Trump obviously gets elected and they like launch a full-blown criminal investigation into him, which lasted throughout his presidency and was like such a distraction. And it was like $32 million or something crazy like that. Well, anyhow, towards the end of his presidency, a lot of things started coming to light, and a special counsel, John Durham, was brought in to investigate, like, what's happening here and where did all this evidence come from? And it turns out that the whole thing that started all of this, the Steele dossier, was completely false. Like, the Hillary Clinton campaign paid for it. And this is proven. They went to court for it. Of course, no one is in jail over this. There's no accountability, but the Hillary Clinton campaign did have to pay like $100,000 fine or something because they freaking made up a Steele dossier. They bought it to influence the 2016 election. And when that didn't work, the FBI, along with Barack Obama, they all knew that this all came from Hillary Clinton, and they still decided to investigate it with zero evidence and lying to FISA courts. And so all of this is like finally coming all together to paint the picture in this report that has just now been released, which I think is crazy. Like, why the hell has it taken years and years and years? And it's exposed that like Trump did nothing wrong. The whole freaking thing was made up. And there's this complete double standard, which we'll get into. So Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz published an article in Newsweek that summarized the report saying, quote, "The Durham report exonerates Trump, implicates the anti-Trump double standard," end quote, referring to how the FBI handled wrongdoing by the Hillary Clinton campaign versus immediately opening a criminal investigation into Trump with no evidence. So it's like they let the Hillary Clinton campaign off the hook, but then Trump, there was this whole thing that lasted for years, and it was really ugly. So he says that the Durham report points to, quote, "highly significant intelligence," end quote, that was received from a foreign source pointing to a Clinton campaign plan to vilify Trump by tying him to Vladimir Putin, so as to divert attention from her own concerns relating to her use of a private email server, which she never was held accountable for. He then concludes that, quote, "unlike the FBI's opening of a full investigation of unknown members of the Trump campaign based on raw, uncorroborated information in this separate matter involving a purported Clinton campaign plan, the FBI never opened any type of inquiry, issued any taskings, employed any analytical personnel, or produced any analytical products in connection with the information. So they didn't do any due diligence with Hillary Clinton, yet with Trump, they had evidence that wasn't true and they did no due diligence and they went after him. So two like completely different ways that they handled very similar cases. So the presidential candidate and former UN ambassador Nikki Haley said that she thinks heads got to roll over this. Like she thinks that people should be cut from these organizations like the FBI, that in an interview with Fox News, where she said that this is something that the US has criticized third world nations over in the past. And here, now we're doing the same thing that we've criticized all these foreign countries of doing for years. And even CNN's Jake Tapper, who won a Pulitzer for his coverage of the Trump investigation, Trump-Russian collusion story, he even said that Durham's investigation is damning for the FBI and it exonerates Trump. So Tara, I don't know how much more evidence we need at this point in time that the FBI interferes with elections. They did it before, they're doing it again. This was a criminal investigation into a presidential candidate and then a sitting president. And the whole thing was based on zero evidence. They found out it was all fake. None of it was real. And this is something that it just can't happen again. If we want to move forward as a nation, this can't happen again. And I am with Nikki Haley on this, where I think heads have to roll over this. So I actually have a clip from your boyfriend, Senator Josh Hawley, about what he thinks should happen as a result of this.
There needs to be a lot more than reports, Jesse. People need to be prosecuted for this. The Clinton campaign and Hillary Clinton herself, is it any coincidence that she is tweeting about collusion at exactly the same time her campaign operatives are feeding this BS to the FBI? I don't think so. There needs to be consequences for her and also for the FBI. FBI leadership has clearly got to be changed. And Jesse, I'm of the mind we need to end the FBI as we know it. It needs to be broken up. I mean, clearly it has become corrupt. The leadership is corrupt. You can talk to FBI agents in the field. I was just doing this this past week. Great folks in my home state all over the place, but they're not served by this leadership. This leadership has become totally, radically politicized, and we've got to change it.
I'll tell you.
So what do you think, Tara? You agree with your boyfriend?
Of course I do. I love that man. Between him and Senator Kennedy, Senator Kennedy is more like my dad figure, but
yeah, I love him.
Are my favorites. But he's talking about leadership. There literally is no leadership in this country. This report, okay, it confirms that the DOJ and the FBI conspired with mainstream media and foreign intelligence and Hillary Clinton to basically destroy Trump's career and then turn all of the easily gullible people in our society against him. And it took, 300 pages and 4 years later to confirm this? Should I say that, wow, I'm so utterly shocked and I never saw this coming? Because Stephanie, I can't do that with a straight face. And anyone who can, I'm sorry, you're a fucking idiot. We have known that the FBI and the DOJ are corrupt and have been weaponized by the Biden administration all along. Or actually, I should say the Obama-Clinton administration, because that's really who's pulling the puppet strings. I mean, should we feel vindicated that this is coming to light? Because honestly, I just feel let down. Where's the accountability? Where are the criminal charges? Where are the indictments? Where are the impeachments? Oh, that's right. There are none of these things because there never is. It's every single time Republicans have damning evidence, there's this huge buildup and then nothing happens. It's
nothing. They have no backbone. And
no.
I'm waiting, constantly waiting. And now I'm just I don't even expect it. I don't even expect to see any resolution here because I know they're not going to take any action.
Right. And that's what happens every single time. And let's look at the FBI's response to this whole thing. So several hours after the DOJ publishes this Durham report, the FBI issues a statement saying, quote, The conduct in 2016 and 2017 that special counsel Durham examined was the reason the current FBI leadership already implemented dozens of corrective actions, which have now been in place for some time. This report reinforces the importance of ensuring the FBI continues to do its work with the rigor, objectivity, and professionalism the American people deserve and rightly expect. And so, Stephanie, what are these dozens of corrective actions, right, that the FBI has implemented? Well, according to an article in the Epoch Times, the FBI sent a letter to the DOJ indicating that these improvements are like more rigorous requirements for applying surveillance and requiring personnel get training for surveillance applications, updating their guidelines on vetting confidential resources, requiring additional approval for opening sensitive investigative measures, and expanding their internal oversight and auditing programs. So this sounds good, right? It's like, oh, look, the FBI is being so proactive and they took accountability and they admitted they fucked up and like everyone involved has been fired or retired or they're gone somehow. But let's be honest, this admission is window dressing. It's like fluff to placate people. And this investigation is yet another example of the proof of the extreme corruption that we already know is taking place in our government. Not only does this show that what happened with Trump was immoral and illegal, it's fucking unconstitutional. These acts are treasonous. It's a total betrayal of the American people and our Constitution. But it has gotten to a level where like these corrupt politicians and elites are so untouchable that they don't care. Like, do you even see the Biden administration responding to any of this? Like, they just laugh at this shit behind closed doors because they know they're going to continue to get away with it. So am I infuriated? Absolutely. But I also just want to laugh because it's like this, it's totally pointless to get my expectations up that anything's going to come of this.
No, and you bring up a good point. It's total arrogance. Like they know they're untouchable. They know nothing's going to happen because they're in bed with everyone. They're like the DOJ is in on it, and that's who would do justice. And I think it's hilarious how the FBI is saying that the FBI is no longer corrupt.
Right.
Like, why should we believe them? Like they're saying they're telling us that they are not corrupt. Like, why don't we get some outside perspective here? Come on.
It's like a criminal investigating a criminal.
Yeah, exactly.
Ridiculous. But I have to say, on a side note, I am loving Marjorie Taylor Greene right now. Like she did this whole thing this week called Impeachment Week. And I love how outspoken she is. And like people think she's crazy with some of the stuff she comes up with, but I love it. And so this week she's filed articles of impeachment against Christopher Wray, the FBI director, against U.S. Attorney Matthew Graves for District of Columbia. And then most recently on Wednesday, she filed an article of impeachment against Merrick Garland. And
yeah,
so,
why is he not impeached yet? Like this guy is the worst.
Exactly. So she is accusing him of persecuting Trump with, the FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago last August. And that, instead of focusing on prosecuting Antifa and Black Lives Matter rioters that basically like destroyed our cities and caused billions of dollars worth of public and private property damage, instead of, prosecuting them, we're persecuting Americans who participated in the January 6th protests. And I don't know if you heard this, but there's like some 70-year-old man that I just heard this yesterday was like, I think a Navy vet in his 60s or 70s, and he did not even go into the Capitol, but he's being charged and they want to put him in jail for like 15 years. Like it's
that's so sad.
And it's like, it's so ridiculous to me. And there was an article in OAN that was discussing how Garland, like he's been involved in so many scandals and controversies while he's been the attorney general. Like when he decided not to bring charges against all the leftist extremists who harassed and threatened the Supreme Court justices after the Dobbs decision, and when they, these fucking people went to their homes and threatened them. And then when the FBI was targeting parents who were standing up for their children's education and then being called domestic terrorists, like the shit that he has been involved with, he should have been fucking impeached a long time ago. And so Green's charging him with like weaponizing the DOJ, and which is the truth. And she put out a tweet on Wednesday saying, quote, Garland has used the FBI as a personal police force for his boss, Joe Biden. The deep state is full of corruption and must be ripped out root and stem. And so she's totally right. And we talk about this all the time. But do I think anything is going to come out of impeachment week? No, just like I don't think anything's going to come out of the Durham investigation.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, absolutely nothing. And of course, the mainstream media, for the most part, is acting like, oh, yeah, nothing came of the Durham investigation.
Right.
They lied to federal courts to get these FISA warrants. Like, this was like the worst thing. I mean, you know, you think about us growing up and hearing about Watergate.
Right.
This makes Watergate look like nothing. I mean, this is really bad. And of course, the mainstream media isn't going to report it because that would be admitting that what they perpetuated for, you know, the last 6 years, it was complete bullshit. And they're never going to do that. And what's crazy too is like, it's not even like the evidence was proven wrong. There was no evidence. It was made up. Like, the whole thing was a story that never happened. And it ruined people's lives. I mean, like the thing I talked about in the beginning, like Trump peeing on hookers, like that was completely made up. It was made up by someone in the Hillary Clinton campaign. And I'm like, what kind of like kinky ass shit are they into to come up with a story like that? It's just crazy. And, you know, I was watching an interview that had former Attorney General Bill Barr, and he's like, well, the investigation was never supposed to be a criminal investigation. It was an investigation to reveal the truth. Well, I'm sorry, but the truth turns out to be the worst crime in election history by our own government agency. And it wasn't like it was just some FBI agents. This came from the very top. And Barack Obama knew about it. Biden knew about it. They all knew the whole thing was a lie from the Hillary Clinton campaign. And instead of criminally going after her, they went ahead and went after Trump and everyone in his circle. They made the mainstream media perpetuate the lie. Now we know that they colluded with social media. And what the real injustice is that during the last election, they refused to show the public anything that was really happening because they didn't want to interfere with the election. Like, I remember Attorney General Barr saying, we're not going to make any decisions or show anything because this is an election, you know, year, and we don't want to interfere with the election. Well, what? Of course it's going to interfere with the election, because if American voters know what the truth is, they're not going to vote for the falsehood, right? Like, so it's just like the misinformation, the disinformation, all of that stuff is coming from the very people that are trying to point the finger at everyone else. And that's what's so crazy about this whole thing. And I just think that had we known the facts, the election would have gone very differently.
Yeah, definitely.
So, anyhow, now that I've ranted on that, Tara, I got to ask you, when you were a cop, okay, and you went out on a call, like not expecting to see a crime, you know, you're just making your rounds or whatever, but then you end up witnessing a crime, would you just walk away and say like, oh, this wasn't supposed to be a day where I'm supposed to like arrest people, like I was just supposed to do traffic stops or whatever? Or would you arrest the criminal? Because that's what's happening here.
Of course I'd walk away. Like, let's say I show up to a call, right? Like, hey, dude, like, damn, your wife is cowering in the corner and she's bleeding from the head pretty bad. And you've got blood all over your hands. And oh my God, there's broken furniture. But I got called for loud music and I don't hear any music. So I guess things are fine here. And if you hear any loud music, just give us a call. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye. Like, does that sound fucking stupid? Of course it does. But it's not as stupid as the excuses that are being given to cover up what happened in this investigation. It is like a fucking joke. It's exactly like you said, oh, it wasn't supposed to be a criminal investigation. It is a fucking criminal investigation because everything that was done was fucking criminal.
Yeah, it was criminal, and it was all based on lies. And that's the thing that I think, even if someone's listening and like they were a Hillary Clinton supporter or they're currently a Democrat and they hate Trump, it's like, okay, fine. But doesn't it piss you off that your own government, the agencies that are supposed to be like catching the bad guys, were lying to you? And not only were they lying to you, but they were working with mainstream media and social media to lie to you further and completely brainwash you into believing that Trump was something he wasn't. And the real bad guy the whole time was the other person that was running, because she's the one that made up this whole entire thing in the first place. Like, it just blows my mind. And I just think, like, if you have any sense of right and wrong, good or bad, how can you turn a blind eye to this? I don't get it. But I do think there are people that are starting to wake up and realize what's happening here. And like I said, I was shocked when I heard Jake Tapper, of all people, on CNN admitting that this makes the FBI look terrible, because he won an award for his coverage on it. So at least there are some people that are like being truthful and speaking up. But I mean, it's just going to happen again. It's like, I feel like it's already happening. Look at what they're doing now. They couldn't get Trump on this, so now they're going after him with something else. And we've got to open our eyes and call it out. And I think I'm with Holly. Like, there needs to be prosecutions for sure. And I know you are, Tara. I can tell by your smile when I say his name. Oh my gosh. Well, anyhow, I hope that everyone has a great weekend. And I hope that you learned a little something today, because I don't think this is getting the coverage it deserves. And yeah, have a great weekend. We'll see you back here for Motivation Monday. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you get our latest episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And if you could, please rate and review the show. We are going to be reading every single review, and I would love it if you hopped over to Instagram at Unapologetically Outspoken and say hi. We want to see who's out there and start a conversation, plus get all of the topics that you want us to talk about next. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.